Have you ever woke up in the middle of a dream and the dream was so interesting that you wanted to go back to sleep to see the end of it? If so, what was the dream? Was exploring a jungle with a group of, I assume, friends. We ended up discovering some kind of temple, but it was dark so we decided to set up camp. I was charged with gathering dry wood and leaves for the fire. While machining my way through vines, I heard my name being screamed by one of the group members in a terrified way, repeatedly. Woke up to see my mom yelling my name and to get the duck up already. I never found out what that temple was. Edit: I have never watched any adventure movies like Indiana Jones or Jumanji, nor have I played any Uncharted game. I used to have lucid dreams in my early to mid-20s. As soon as I'd realize I was asleep, I'd start flying or just rising to the ceiling because it was a cool way to test it. Then my immediate thought would be, who should I pretend sleep with? And the excitement over that possibility woke me up every damn time. I learned I could fly, but I had to teach myself. Woke up right as I was gearing up for the big test to see how high I could go. Forced myself back to sleep, and let me tell you, flying in a dream is way too ducking fun. I was friends with Jesus, in the modern day, and he was sound. Not preachy. One of the lads like. When I wake up in the morning, I usually have 30 more minutes before I have to actually get out of bed. If I'm having a dream before I wake up and I go back to sleep, I can usually continue the dream. Last night I had a dream that I was in some kind of resort, Jurassic Park-like area. I went back to sleep this morning and managed to get into a relationship with a pretty hot dude who was working at the resort. A few months before I got married, I had a dream where Bill Murray was attending my wedding and asked to make a toast. I happily agreed. Then, before I could hear the toast, I woke up. I have a story about when the opposite of this happened. It was a ducking epic fantasy dream, let me tell ya. Evil wizard of some sort that I'm pretty sure was my 8th grade math teacher, kidnapped princess, a worthless but snappy sidekick that was my best friend Earl. This dream had everything. So I beat the bad guy, rescued the princess and brought her back to a village of, I think Ewoks or something, I dunno. Big celebration. Everybody went hooray and stuff, and then it didn't end. We just kinda stood there looking at each other. It felt like a long time. Ewoks just kinda start milling around and doing their everyday shit. Made some small talk with the princess. And then eventually the dream ended and I woke up. It was a strange one. Edit: 2 words. This was like the 4th strangest dream I've ever had. I once dreamt that all of my family and closest friends were on the world's largest cruise ship. Along the way, we somehow were exposed to radioactive waste that gave us all superpowers or other mutations. I remember so vividly being able to use my mind to move objects with ease, and I threw donuts at my brother, whose skin had turned as hard as stone. This one girl on the cruise that we all universally hated, for reasons I can't remember, received a really random and useless mutation. She grew a really fat lizard tail, like a leopard gecko who has eaten a lot lol. She was crying about how ugly she was now and all we could do was laugh. Then I woke up. I dreamt that I was part of some Eastern European resistance movement who had to speak in code and hide out in abandoned manors in the forest to plan our attacks against some fascist regime. We enlisted the Pope to help us. But when we went to meet him, he has double-crossed us because the regime we were fighting somehow knew the Pope was gay and was going to tell everyone. I woke up then, not knowing if my resistance group was executed, or if we escaped somehow. I call it my gay Pope dream. I had a nightmare a couple years back, and I still remember some bits. I was in a city where there was an outbreak of a disease. Infected people would start leaking black stuff from their eyes and noses and attack non-infected people. For some reason, I was walking in a part of the city that was completely deserted a couple days after the outbreak. Very faintly I heard someone crying. I approached and found out that it came from a backyard. If I wanted to see who it was, I had to climb a high fence. When I walked into the backyard I was ducking horrified, There was a crying little kid, like 3 years old on a leash, tied to a pole. I didn't dare to approach, because that child was leaking Valk stuff from the nose. I woke up after this, and was still horrified. The parents had to leave their child who was still alive, chained to a pole outside. That fucked me up for a couple of days. I died in one of my dreams, so that was startling, but I was dead for a good 15 seconds or so in my dream, so that was interesting to say the least. Most nights actually. I very rarely have nightmares, and even those are very interesting. Life inside of my head is much more entertaining than reality. I had a nightmare about being a teenage girl with a group of friends on bikes hiding from and hunting down a shadow monster that killed dogs, and we tracked it down to some abandoned house and tried to rescue the dogs, but one of the dogs started barking and I had to try and calm it down before the monster came and got us, and my friends screamed from another room but they do. Then I woke up and I will never know if those dogs survived. Hell if I know. All of my dreams fade away 20 seconds after I try to tell them to someone. The most I will ever remember is the feeling that the dream was awesome and that I want to go back. Never can. I don't remember frown. My son is in the Air Force and has been stationed overseas the whole 312 years has been in. Has in for 6 years instead of 4. So, anytime I dream about him, I want to go back to sleep to see him a little longer. I was eating the most delicious chicken nuggets ever. My ex and I got back together and she told me she's pregnant. I felt happy and fulfilled like never before. After I woke up, the entire day was so ruined I didn't even know how to deal with it. Just wanted to dream for the rest of my life. I have a crush of 3 years, who rejected me. Yet I dreamt about being with her as couples. I know this will never happen in real life, so when I woke up, I forced myself to sleep again. Unfortunately that was the last of it. Frown. It was a dream where there were no debts, no stress, no pressure, no boss, no monotonous job, no homework. Oh, you wanted details? I have no idea. I just remember the weightlessness of being stress-free. And being in a hardware store? I had one this morning. I'm a heavy sleeper, and whatever goes around me tends to get in my dreams. It's a curse at times, but this morning I had an Amber Alert at 3:30 a.m., and my dream went from being okay to my friends getting incinerated by a nuke. I was the only one that survived, but by the time I was about to leave the bunker to see the devastation, I woke up turning off the alert. I've recently become disabled. My dreams are of walking without pain or a limp. I'm so disappointed when I wake and my disability is still there. I had one about time travel, but I had to look and be genetically different and I went back time, but I woke up in the middle of night when it started. The end of the world on a beach. I was getting ice cream for my family, when suddenly the sun went purple, started spinning and fell behind the horizon. All the sky followed, replaced by darkness. Gravity broke, we went down and couldn't move anymore. All the world around us started to flatten inexorably, slowly drifting towards the dark rift at the end. A voice started to call different names and people got sucked into the night. Suddenly it was my turn. I glided to the edge freaking out, and as I fell over the horizon, I realized I didn't have a body anymore. I was just a gaze traveling in space. It lasted a very long time. We passed all the beautiful planets and slowly left the solar system. Then we traveled across the galaxy and left it too. Somewhere far ahead, in the total darkness, faint lights started to appear. Stars and constellations I never saw before. I knew at this moment that they were waiting for us, and even if it takes forever, we will reach them. And once we do, all our questions will be answered. Finally we'll know what's out there and why we exist. We were getting closer and closer. Almost there, I could feel it won't be so long. And then my brain chose to wake up. I desperately thought no, not now, just a moment more, but it was too late. The dream was gone. I was so pissed. Sometimes I think my own brain laughs at me.